As many? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Darren Henfield.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President. Permit me as I begin to extend personal condolences to the family of Ronnie Ambrister, MCM from the Free National Movement, who served his party and his country to the best of his ability. He was a member of our trade unions. He worked very hard in the interest of musicians. I'd also like to extend condolences to the family of Captain Anthony or Tony Buck Evans, who passed a few days ago, a man that I served with and was proud to serve alongside. He commanded at least 2 vessels upon which I served. He was dedicated to the country, dedicated to the cause of the force, and he will be missed. And so, Ginger, we are praying for you and with you in this hour of your bereavement. I'd also like to say a happy 38th anniversary to my wife, who has put up with me for. Yeah, I was 23, she was 19, right? And she put up with me for a very long time. Yeah, days at sea and other things, right? It takes a lot of compromise and sacrifice and a lack of self-interest to be able to survive in marriage. And I thank God for His grace, which has brought us safe thus far. I'd also like to begin by commending the Attorney General for his fulsome report on the UPR, on Bahamas' positions taken. This is one of the occasions where we can say that governments are continuous, and foreign policy issues such as this, I believe we should try to be an item as much as we can. I think one American president said that politics stops at the borders, and in this case we see that to be so. Very pleased with the fulsome report given here by the Attorney General. And so today, Madam President, we have come to debate a very crucial issue in our country and all across the world, for that matter, which is human rights. As our colleagues in the other place have done, we will support this resolution to establish a bipartisan human rights committee comprising members of both houses of Parliament, namely 5 members from the House of Assembly, which is, we like to remind them from over here, which is the lower house, and 3 members from the Senate, which of course is the upper house. The committee, as you've heard, will monitor, protect, and enforce human rights in the Bahamas by assessing and evaluating matters related to the enforcement of human rights, determining compliance with such rights relative to regional and global obligations, report to Parliament every 6 months. They will also recommend legislation to improve human rights, investigate allegations of infringements on human rights, and hold public hearings. And so on. I believe that the fact that this committee will hold public hearings to hear from our communities and society is very good. The last time I spoke in this place, I indicated that I thought it would be beneficial to the Bahamian public if legislators, lawmakers would be able to go and sit and explain and listen to them more before we come to this place and bring legislation. And so this committee will be empowered to meet from time to time and place to place and call for papers and for people. But I hope the AG puts in his financial arrangements enough money to go into the family islands. He has family island roots and heritage just like me, and so I expect to see him in Albuquerque and in Lustra and in Exuma, and talking to our communities about these issues that touch and concern them right where they live. We are assured by the government that the committee's work and mandate will not by any means undermine the powers of the judiciary to maintain its preeminence as the guardians of our laws and our rights. This committee will not infringe on the powers of the Supreme Court or any other court in the Bahamas to do its work, and we don't see it as a collision between legislation and the judiciary, the work that this committee will embark upon. The committee, Madam President, is also charged with instituting measures that are aimed at improving the quality of life and status of all people, especially the vulnerable, marginalized in our society. Madam President, globally defined and enshrined human rights cannot be legally withheld by any nation state that desires to be a part of the international community. Everyone must be treated in your borders with the same sense of priority and equality. Beginning with the Magna Carta in 1215 AD, the French Declaration of Rights of Man in 1789, and the US Constitution's Bill of Rights in 1791, each of which included inherent inalienable rights to which all human beings were and still remain entitled. You'd find in our Constitution, in the section of fundamental rights, support for these fundamental rights that human beings, and Bahamians in particular, must enjoy. The rich irony here, though, is that we didn't see the abolition of slavery until 1865, some 74 years after the US Bill of Rights. These encoded documents declared to all and sundry that governments could no longer deprive an individual of his human rights, no matter his status, in the absence of appropriate exceptions under the law. So, Madam President, World War II, which lasted for 6 years, was fought to rid the world of people like Adolf Hitler and his band of miscreants, and to ensure that such governments could not again do what Hitler did. What happened in Germany could not be repeated whilst the world stood idly by and watched helplessly. It demanded a solution. And so, Madam President, it necessitated a system capable of denying any government the ability to deprive any person of life, liberty, and property without the support of the law, as Hitler did in Nazi Germany, when he displaced large numbers of the German population, namely of Jewish distraction, and put them into concentration camps all across Poland and elsewhere. And the rest we know is history. Hence the advent of the United Nations, formed in 1945 with the notion that, among other things, the dignity of the individual is not solely a matter of state consent or responsibility. Accordingly, member states can no longer singularly and with impunity determine what was in the best interest of citizens. Genocide and other such inhumane and atrocious acts would simply no longer be tolerated. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Madam President, became the 138th member of the UN, the United Nations, in 1973, shortly after attaining independence. When we joined the UN, we gained access to its organs such as UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, WHO, World Health Organization, which we saw very active in our country and in the region during the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and the ILO, International Labour Organization. Since then, the UN over the years added a number of conventions or treaties which support people's rights, and which we have become obligated to follow in accordance with the rules of the United Nations, which is a rules-based organization. In fact, we've had the privilege of serving in several important organs of the UN that regulate these important conventions, like CEDAW. The Honorable Marion Bethel, I think, still sits in that committee and is a well-respected member of that committee and has been sitting for quite a number of years. CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which was ratified by us in 1993, and the HRC, the Human Rights Council, to which we were first elected in 2018, based upon the work of the previous administration before us. So we don't take full responsibility for our election here to this committee, but we were very proud to be able to be the first country from the English-speaking Caribbean, CARICOM country, supported by CARICOM, to be elected to sit on this committee, and we pray that we're successful in our bid to do so again. Madam President, other important conventions to which we are legally obligated to assure adherence to the rights of citizens include the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Convention on the Rights of the Child, the International Convention on Elimination of all Forms of Racial Discrimination, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which replaced the rights originally outlined in the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And fifth, because we mentioned two before, the Convention Against Torture and other cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, punishment. And ironically, as we speak about a moratorium on the death penalty, we realized in Pratt & Morgan that this was the basis of the court's ruling, which found it inhumane and cruel treatment to have someone waiting on death row for such an extended period, not knowing when you'd be called upon to face that judgment. Among other things, the treatment on the whole. And that punishment of death that was reposed upon Pratt & Morgan was laid aside. That is a case, I think, that emanated out of Jamaica, and of course we all follow suit. These conventions, Madam President, among other things, are precisely why members of the Human Rights Council can assert, as they did recently, that we should pursue enactments to liberalize more deliberately, if you will, certain elements of our society. I'm almost done, Madam President. I promise not to be long today, but I want to speak to one or two things in this area of my presentation. That brings me to this issue of the way developed countries, the way they view yet developing countries in the context of human rights that are yet, unfolding in their own countries. As reported by Early Boleg in the Tribune of the 4th of May 2023 under the countries share recommendations on human rights issues with the Bahamas, in which members of the Human Rights Council assert views such as, and to my learned friend who had to adeptly manage and handle these assertions and recommendations, or whatever we wish to call them. It's not easy sitting in that seat as foreign minister. You're often asked to answer such questions. That's why they could assert views such as extend full marital rights to same-sex couples and adopt more liberal policies on the rights for lesbian and gay, bisexual and transgender and intersex or LBGTI people. Adopt a normative framework that recognizes the civil rights, the consensual same-sex or same-gender relations between persons of the age of majority. They also talked, as you heard from the Attorney General, about a moratorium on the death penalty, non-custodial alternatives for asylum and seekers and for more. And ironically, I read something, I think it was this morning, by one of the bishops of the Church of England, who suggests to the House of Lords, I think it was, that their new asylum policy is inhumane in the way that they want it enacted, and he would not support it. These, Madam President, I believe are issues of the state, and I think the AG is of the same mind, that must not be developed beyond the purview of the Bahamian people. Let me see if I could look at the camera and put this very simply. How we treat with same-sex marriage, how we treat with asylum seekers, how we treat with these issues asserted by the Committee on Human Rights is a matter for Bahamians. Bahamians, I believe, if they're thinking like me and coming from the place where I came, I say this literally. We're kind of tired of people telling us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. If you consider yourself an advanced society, you're enlightened, that's fine. Continue to do what you do in the interest of your enlightenment, in the interest of your advancement. But allow countries like the Bahamas and others, I've heard this same sentiment come from some of the African countries, and we share the views of many of our colleagues in the Caribbean region. Allow us to develop as a people in our own terms, in accordance with our own principles, and in the way that we view the world. In our Constitution, it states, I heard my colleague Senator allude to it, states that we are founded on Christian principles. Those principles to which we adhere are the principles upon which we base the creation of our laws and the way we develop our society as a nation state. We don't judge anybody who chooses to do what it is they wish to do. That's fine. But don't force upon us or seek to force upon us those things that you find cogent and kosher in your own country. The Bahamian people will determine how the Bahamas is developed. Nobody else. Nobody else. Bahamian people alone will decide these pivotal issues that will go to the core of what we are as a people in determination of the future of marriage in this country. Madam President, before I take my seat, please allow me to speak, and the EG alluded to it as well, to speak to another very pressing issue raised specifically by the United Kingdom relative to statelessness among people born in the country. And I find the irony here very rich, that issue of statelessness will be raised to you and your team at the UPR, and they are presently undertaking legislation to prevent refugees and others seeking to find asylum in their country. And the gist of their legislation, as I understand it, is if you arrive there illegally, you're no longer entitled to asylum. Well, the whole purpose for an asylum seeker is he's looking for safety. And so he doesn't have time to put in applications and papers to say, look here, I'm under threat, my family's under threat, I'm looking for a safe harbor, please permit me to come into your country. No, he does so by any means necessary, and the processes of asylum is such that your immigration department, your immigration people and others will seek to interview these people and find out the veracity of their claim before turning them around as a normal migrant and deporting them or repatriating them to their country. And so a point closely related to the UN's recent pronouncement suggesting that repatriation should cease in the wake of uncontrollable and increasing civil unrest and violence in Haiti. Madam President, to date, the industrial countries of the West have spent a reported $75 billion with a B, dollars in the war efforts in Ukraine. We support the war efforts as a country, and as we are of the view that Russia's invasion of that country, the Ukraine, is unjust, it's illegal, and it's abhorrent. Quite frankly, it's atrocious that in these modern times, a bigger power can just feel the need to jump on a smaller power and does so with impunity. But the point I make is the West has spent, industrialized countries of the West have spent somewhere near reportedly $75 billion in this war effort. We must state this, we are, however, disappointed over the approach of the West, as alluded to by the Attorney General, toward the situation in Haiti. We hear daily of the atrocities heaped on women, and children, and others by gangs that have been allowed to mushroom all across that country. I wonder if these countries from the West would consider 500 million, not a full billion, 250 million, toward the efforts to reestablish normalcy, some sort of normalcy in Haiti. One prime minister was here recently from one of those countries and indicated that they would send boats. Well, we know from our personal experience is that in 1994, 1995, the Bahamas government organized with other CARICOM countries for us to go into Haiti and put boots on the ground in Haiti, and that's exactly what Haiti needs. It doesn't need any platitudinous talk or initiatives or efforts just to say that you're doing something. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, right next door to some very wealthy countries. And when Haiti feels the pain, we feel the pain, because invariably, even though the migrants from Haiti may be trying to find peace and security for their families in the United States of America, invariably, quite a number of them pass through the Bahamas and remain here. And so to suggest that we should stop repatriations in this period of unrest in Haiti is not the solution for Haiti. Haiti needs a real solution which will entail boots on the ground, removal of these gangs which seem to rule the day, raping, pillaging, kidnapping, and doing whatever they feel like with impunity all across Haiti. That is what we need from the United Nations. That is what we need from the United States. That is what we need from Canada. That is what we need from some of the countries that came all the way from Africa in 1994 and 1995 to help stabilize things on the ground in Haiti to the point where they could hold free and fair elections. Time for talk about Haiti should stop. It is time for action. It's no more time for talk. Whilst we talk and dither and dally, children are being killed, women are being raped, people are being kidnapped and removed from their homes, and it is definitely intolerable in the day of existence of the United Nations, which was brought into force to deal with such issues and such matters, especially as it relates to member states. And so we call upon the United Nations and we call upon the industrial countries to do more to help the Haitian people who are now under siege. And so we don't support this idea of a halting of repatriations to Haiti, as called upon by one arm of the United Nations. It is not the solution to addressing the real issues on the ground. The solution is simple: boots on the ground. Haiti has a population of around 12 million or more. There's no way a small country like the Bahamas and others neighboring it can absorb such a population. We simply cannot. The country is on the brink of a civil war, as we are now hearing of stories where communities are now taking matters into their own hands due to the lack of police presence. Haiti needs an intervention led by the United States of America, Canada, and supported by CARICOM and others if it is going to recover from this recent state of despair and hopelessness. After all, Haitians too have a human right to expect that they can live free of unabated violence and despair. Madam President, with those few words, I thank you and I rest.